have heard of a little something called One D&D, or is it 6th edition? 5.5 maybe? Well, whatever they're calling it. These past few weeks have been inundated with info about this newest edition of D&D. Hi, by the way, I'm AP Townley, and this is Roleplay Culture. Today, we're going to discuss a few of the new features presented for One D&D and what I think they might mean for multiclassing. Now, we don't know all the details about multiclassing in this newest edition, but I think you could safely say not too much is going to change when it comes to the details of how you're going to multiclass. It's definitely still going to be a thing. Several subclasses, some old but revised, some brand new, have been portioned out to other D&D YouTubers for their review. And in looking at this data, I've noticed an interesting trend, which I think is going to have a big impact on multiclassing. So let's take a look at a few of these subclasses to see what I mean. The Dungeon Dudes introduced the Path the World Tree Barbarian, a Nordic-inspired barbarian. At 3rd level, Vitality of the Tree gives 2 abilities. Vitality Surge, when you enter a rage, gives temporary hit points equal to your barbarian level. And Life-Giving Force lets you, at the beginning of your turn, while raging, give temporary hit points to an ally within 10 feet of you. You calculate the number of hit points by rolling a number of d6s equal to your rage bonus, which should be about 2 most of the time. This is pretty cool. Giving temporary hit points to a character that is already having most damage is quite strong. Tying these abilities to not only the barbarian level, but also another function of the class with their rage bonus it's pretty interesting. Not going to lie. The rage damage bonus progression is pretty stupid and very boring in my opinion. Not sure if that is going to change any, but I like that they're making that ability relevant in some other way to the class. I wonder how many players just flat out forget to add that +2 to their damage while raging. Now, the World Tree Barbarian gets a bunch of other cool abilities when they reach higher levels that involve crowd control and teleporting of all things. But I think we've seen enough of this subclass to get what we need. Now let's go over to Ginny D's channel, where she introduced the College of the Dance Bard, another new one. This dancer flounces and pirouettes her way across a battlefield while also kicking you in the face. At level 3, you may not know this, but all subclasses come at level 3 in this edition. College of the Dance Bards get Dance Virtuoso, giving you advantage on dance performance checks. You also get Unarmored Defense. Yep, that's the monk's unarmored defense. Your base armor class is 10 plus your dex modifier plus your charisma modifier, which is going to make you a pretty hard to hit for a freaking bard. Agile Strikes come next, which lets you, when you expend a Bardic Inspiration die, with an action, bonus action, or reaction, make an unarmored strike as part of that action, bonus action, or reaction. I imagine this as striking a number to inspire an ally that ends with a fantastic leg sweep that kicks the orc in the face. Finally, they get Bardic Damage, which allows them to make unarmored strikes using their dex modifier instead of the strength modifier for attack rolls and damage. And the die of the damage you use is the same as your Bardic Inspiration die. So it will start as a d6 and go up to all the way to a d12. Pretty good. Oh, I hope it's not better than the actual monk, though. That would be unfortunate. Let's hop over to Colby's channel, D4 Deep Dive, where he does a review on the updated Rogue Assassin. This is not a new subclass, but a redo of the old one. At 3rd level, they still get proficiency in the Disguise and Poisoner's kits. But the Assassinate feature is where things start to change. First, we get advantage on initiative checks, which is good. Really good, in fact, with assassins needing to have surprise to assassinate someone. Except, they don't need surprise anymore. Surprise is changing anyhow, and assassinate works differently too. Surprise strikes, which is what the new feature is called, now lets us, in the first round of combat, do extra damage equal to our rogue level when we sneak attack. So it's no longer crits on surprise enemies, now it's extra damage equal to the rogue level on the first round of combat with sneak attack. So yeah, you're not going to have those huge dumps of damage that you used to, but this will also be way more consistent. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Assassin Rogue before. In my experience, forcing surprise on your enemies, even with a stealthy character, was just way too inconsistent. If half the party is a plate mail, then good luck sneaking up on anyone. Scouting ahead to gain that advantage was liable to get you into fights by yourself and probably killed. No, in my experience, the vast majority of the time, it is you who is being ambushed, not the bad guys. But this assassin is more of a first strike character, doing most of their damage on the first round of combat, regardless of surprise. Much more reliable. I think we've seen enough new information to get to the meat of the episode. What does this all mean for multiclassing? As we've seen, this new edition seems to be tying quite a bit of at least the early subclass features to either the class level or some other numerical function of the class itself. The World Tree Barbarian's temporary hit points are tied to their level, as well as the temporary hit points given to an ally being a function of the dice multiplied by their rage damage bonus. And then there was College of Dance making use of the Bardic Inspiration die to be their unarmored damage die. Extra damage from their Assassin Rogue tied to their base class level. You get the idea. These things scale nicely as you level up in that class, but only in that class. In 2014 version of D&D, you had a lot of proficiency times per day or equal to your ability to score modifier XYZ. And there may still be some of that we just haven't seen yet. But right now, these features seem to scale with the class itself. And that means the value of multiclassing is going to drop. Taking 3 levels in Barbarian to only get 3 temporary hit points because you're mostly a fighter doesn't quite sound as appealing, does it? Taking that 1 level dip into Cleric to get heavy armor and a cool ability, probably a thing of the past. We'll see. But it does sound appealing if you stay with that class, which is, I'm sure, the point. This design is obviously an attempt to make it more palatable to stay with your parent class and take it to higher levels instead of Frankensteining some character together with 2 or 4 different classes smashed up, trying to steal all the best parts. This is especially true for the Barbarian, as it was one of the worst scaling classes. I don't know many who took it past level 5. Most of the time, I only took to level 2 with it. Ultimately, I think this is a good thing. Sure, multiclassing is fun, but it should be fun to just play the class as it was intended as well. I'm sure we'll still see plenty of multiclass shenanigans abound with these new confines, but it makes me happier to see them try to encourage players to stay with the class as a whole to see how it grows in power. And I like that. I think it will be healthier for the game as a whole. So those are just some of my thoughts on multiclassing in the upcoming edition of D&D. We'll have to see more definitive rules of multiclassing and the classes themselves, but we'll see what comes out in September. Tell me your thoughts on multiclassing 1D&D or even in 5th edition in the comments below. Do you think it's healthy for the game, or should we just stick to one class? While you're down there, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, smash that like button, check out some of our other videos over here, and I'll see you in the parlor.